What do you think of when I say the name Shaquille O'Neal?
Against Dudley, nice move!
Perhaps it's his antics on the TNT crew that comes to mind first.
I bet you $20 I'll buy the chip, won't even make a face. I'm not making a face, though. Oh, it's hot.
Maybe it's the fact that his name and face is plastered on every category of product that you can think of.
Shaq brings up the ball, passes to Shaq in the corner, feeds it to Shaq in the post, who's got Shaq all over it. Wow, what a matchup this is going to be.
What happened to your New Year's resolution?
My resolution is to eat better. So I'm eating better. What are you guys doing in my house?
Okay, but why is Shaq coming too?
To show you how it's done.
What about the way he's so proud of being an NBA analyst who doesn't watch the games?
You know, first of all, I don't watch Detroit. How about that, boo-boo? I don't watch them. So,
let that go.
When I hear people say, oh, the NBA is boring, I go, you're watching the same teams. Because if you put on the Detroit Pistons right now.
Oh, stop it. They're boring, too. You know,
No.
Bro, 4 games under 500.
They've won 7 in a row.
Whoopee freaking do.
And I don't think they're 4 games under 500.
All right, what are they?
I'm going to look it up right now. 6 games over 500. They've won 7 in a row.
You want to brag about a team that's 32 and 26?
Oh, see, you see how he moved the goalposts?
Yeah, stop it.
Maybe you think of his weird, fetishistic brand of hazing.
Shaq is a jokester. So if one of the rookies would be in a stall, he would take a bucket and use the bathroom in it for about a week. And then all of a sudden he'll pour it on them.
This is Shaq, bro. Like, I done heard the stories of Doodoo Surprise where he used to shit in people magazines and shoes. Like, this is Shaq we dealing with, bro. You might want to chill.
Or maybe you're like me. And the main thing that comes to mind is his constant bullying and whining due to his aggressively fragile ego.
Was he true MVP or was he a sympathy MVP?
No, he was a true MVP.
Over me? Twice?
Oh, get out of here. Hey.
If you're at your house, can you show me one of those MVP trophies that you stole from me?
Not a part of you that says, yes, Steve Nash deserved the award for the following reasons.
Maybe once, but not twice over the easel. Twice, 2 times in a row. He got 2, I got 1, Kobe got 1, something wrong with that picture.
Whatever facet of Shaq that you most latch onto, whether you love him or hate him, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. I myself am a huge fan of Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player, but not so much the man, and especially not so much the analyst. And while I don't think I actually hate the man, I do hate the role that he's carved out for himself in the cesspool that is NBA discourse. In our last Hater Manifesto, my feelings about Kevin Durant were definitely strong, but never extended to judging his character, at least not too hard anyways. But with Shaq, it's complicated. So today, I present to you the Shaquille O'Neal Hater Manifesto. Before I get into today's video, I want to talk about our sponsor, Factor. If you're like me, a person who's busy caring about stuff other than yourself, then you probably don't have an ideal diet. Generally speaking, for me, eating consistently and eating well has been extremely difficult in the past. Luckily, today's sponsor, Factor, makes both so much easier. Factor is more affordable than takeout and even more convenient with fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door. Then it's only 2 minutes in the microwave and your meal is ready. If you have a chaotic schedule like me, being able to prepare something quickly like you can with Factor really helps. Factor is also very customizable with over 35 meals to choose per week, and you can specify options to your dietary restrictions. There are calorie smart options if you're trying to lose weight, keto options if you're dodging carbs, and protein plus if you're getting back in the gym. I even got these juices, which are nothing short of satisfying. Factor eliminates the hassle of prepping, cooking, and cleaning up. Simply heat and savor the good stuff. Head to factor75.com or use the link in the description and use code 50rustybuckets to get 50% off of your first Factor box. Again, that is code 50rustybuckets to get 50% off of your first box, and a huge shout out to Factor for sponsoring this video. Shaquille O'Neal was a great player. I think he belongs amongst the ranks of the top 10 players in NBA history, as do most people. While a majority of the gripes that I have with Shaq are related to his career as an NBA commentator, we need to go back to his playing days, as they will heavily contextualize his commentary as well as mine. I personally feel that he has a case for having the greatest peak in NBA history, right up there with 2013 LeBron and 1993 Jordan. The 93 season was also Shaq's rookie year in the NBA, as he was the undisputed runaway #1 overall pick in 1992, getting drafted by the recently minted Orlando Magic out of LSU. In college, Shaq actually didn't really stand out from the crowd on offense, despite his size as a 7'1" freshman. Instead, he made his presence known as a defensive player, getting 3.6 blocks and 1.2 steals per game. But in his sophomore season, he basically doubled his scoring averages while also leading the SEC in both blocks and rebounds. He went on to be Player of the Year, only sticking around college allegedly because his parents told him that he wasn't mature enough to go pro, and likely because he was still getting paid under the table by LSU, as O'Neal admitted in 2016. Calling Shaq a physical anomaly would be a criminal understatement. He wasn't just a giant 7'1" human being, he also had a 7'7" wingspan, a 9'5" standing reach, and allegedly a 36-inch vertical, resulting in an astounding 12'5" vertical reach. He was only inches away from being able to grab the top of the backboard. What the fuck? But that wasn't even his most incredible superpower. Despite weighing north of 300 pounds, he ran like a fucking gazelle on the fast break, and was just insanely quick in other ways as well. This all stands out as a super impressive starting point physically, but I also want to pay respect to Shaq's touch, which is seldom mentioned when people talk about his dominance. Not only was the Diesel fast and vertically gifted, he was also a gifted finisher. It's not all drop steps and shattered backboards. He had a great hook shot and could touch it off of the glass through crazy traffic and physicality like it was nothing. He also had quite a bit of handle for a big man, but the NBA in the 90s just wasn't really ready for that yet. Back then, people looked at a guy like Shaq dribbling on the fast break the same way they looked at a lineman getting an interception. That's why Giannis makes sense as a modern Shaq comparison, because if Shaq was drafted in 2022 instead of 1992, Shaq would be dribbling way more than you'd think. But despite this soft touch around the basket, Shaq was also known for his trouble at the free throw line. It's easily the biggest knock on him as a player at his peak, and his lack of improvement in this area was one of the earlier signs of the deeper problems that would plague him throughout his NBA career. He proclaimed that it wasn't a big deal that he was bad at free throws because he hit them when they counted.
I'm going to go out and dominate. I'm going to go out and hit clutch free throws when I need them.
I cannot stress enough how intensely this argument pisses me off. They all count, Shaq. Every single one of them. Free throws that you hit in the clutch wouldn't even necessarily be clutch free throws if you hadn't bricked 6 of them earlier in the game. They all fucking count. Sorry, I lost my composure. That one in particular has just been bothering me for a decade plus. Later into his career, Shaq played with Steve Nash, one of the most accurate free throw shooters in NBA history. So naturally, Shaq blew him off when Nash attempted to help and refused to even consider adopting an underhanded method per his suggestion because he thought it'd make him look dumb or soft. He even told Rick Barry that he'd rather shoot 0% than take free throws granny style. Ah yes, the winner's mentality. Don't score more points for your team if it'll make you look a little silly. Rick Barry should have just opted out of winning the 1975 championship. What was even the point of being a champ if this is what he had to do? Was the cost of looking silly really worth the hardware? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Shaq's time in Orlando was nothing short of spectacular. After winning Rookie of the Year and making his first All-NBA team in his second season, Shaq would be runner-up MVP and carry Orlando to the NBA Finals in 1995. He played perfectly fine, just not as well as Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem was one season removed from winning MVP, DPOY, and the 1994 championship, and he and his Houston Rockets were hungry to go back-to-back. David Robinson and San Antonio actually won MVP in 95, but pretty much everyone believes that Hakeem was still the best player in the NBA at the time, with Jordan in retirement. That one weird-ass computer award, however, would disagree. You don't know what I'm talking about? I don't remember who it was, but some nerdy-ass nerd company was like, we're creating this machine MVP that doesn't have human bias and just does stats, and David Robinson won like 8 of them in a row. Now, if I can defend Shaq for a second here, people like to act like Hakeem just destroyed him in this series, but no. Shaq literally put up better stats than his regular season averages. And despite being swept in the series, the Magic and Rockets were actually pretty evenly matched. Orlando only lost Game 1 by 2 points and Game 3 by 3 points. Now, Shaq just so happened to miss 3 free throws in Game 1 and 5 in Game 3. Kind of seems like those would have counted. I don't know. The day after the NBA Finals were over was the start of the first lockout in NBA history, as the collective bargaining agreement between the NBA and its players' union had expired. This lockout didn't lead to any games being missed, but it did pause NBA business for a few months during the offseason and likely raise tensions between players and team owners. The following season, year 4 of Shaq's NBA career, would end up being his last in Orlando, as the Magic got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals by Jordan's Bulls. In one of our more recent deep dives about the Los Angeles Lakers, we talked at length about how he ended up departing from the Magic, as it was truly one of the worst fumbles any NBA franchise has ever made. Long story short, LA was able to sign Shaq in free agency because they offered the most money that was only free to be spent because of yet another much briefer lockout that resulted in a boost in the 1996 salary cap. But it's not like Orlando couldn't re-sign Shaq. They just chose not to because of how expensive it was. And it really did not help that Orlando Magic fans overwhelmingly voted no in a poll asking if Shaq even deserved the contract Orlando was offering. The Magic ownership was actually so cheap that they decided to allow this guy.
This is the eraser that the Magic had needed for a long time. Rebound, Jill. Jill powers it back up. Shaq swats it out of bounds. Right hand.
To just walk away. And he walked all the way across the country to join the LA Lakers, who desperately needed a new post-Showtime era identity. But why would the NBA's most dominant player be seen so negatively by people who are supposed to be his fans? I mean, the guy led them to a finals appearance in his 3rd season when the Magic only existed for 5.9 seasons before that. Well, during Shaq's career, he was everywhere just as he is now. Movies, music, TV commercials. If it existed in pop culture, Shaq had his massive ass fingerprints all over it. And that included his Orlando days. He didn't need to be a LA Laker to be a cultural powerhouse, but this relentless self-aggrandizing rubbed many basketball purists the wrong way. In a 1994 Sports Illustrated poll of NBA coaches, 12 out of 21 of them picked someone else to start a franchise around. One even called him a part-time basketball player, while choosing Alonzo Mourning instead. In the article we found mentioning that poll, it says, quote, "Ironically, Shaq is a polite young man with great respect for his elders and is so soft-spoken, he used to whisper through interviews. However, he did about 10,000 commercials that bragged for him. Remember the one in which Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, and John Wooden welcomed him into their inner circle?
Password. Don't fake the funk on a nasty dunk.
ID? You're early.
But I'm ready.
Then prove it.
That's not enough.
Oh, this must be a rookie thing or something.
How do you think David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Patrick Ewing felt about that one?
I could hold my own. Knick-knack, shack attack, give a dog a bone.
Shaq was bigger than basketball. He wasn't quite Michael Jordan, but he was looking like the next it girl of the NBA. Dare I say, the next face of the league. And once that target was on his back, he started to show signs of that ego and insecurity that drove him to dominate. Following a regular season loss where Spurs players were apparently rubbing it in his face post-game, Shaq said to the media, "Jealousy is the ugliest word in the dictionary. I can do a whole bunch of things. Every time I do something, I do it well. My movie's doing well. My album will be platinum soon. I'm the best at what I do. I'm just a man of many talents. People don't understand that." His album did, in fact, go platinum, by the way. Now, do I believe that being in commercials and making an album on the side means that he isn't working hard enough? No. I think that's a very old school way of looking at it, and I'm a big advocate for the idea that talent is talent in whatever form it comes. Maybe Alonzo Mourning is a strict vegan and his muscles have muscles, but in hindsight, it's pretty clear it would have been foolish to choose him over Shaq. And throughout his career beyond Orlando, Shaq would both prove those doubters wrong and right. His first few years in LA resulted in multiple playoff disappointments as his Lakers teammates left a lot of room to be desired as a supporting cast. But eventually, LA's draft pick from the very year where they signed Shaq, Kobe Bryant, blossomed into a household name. And when these Lakers got to this level of total team talent, the sky was the limit. Now, in 2000, Kobe was not yet the bona fide superstar that we all know. At just 21 years old, it was only his second season as a starter, but he was already a 22-point-per-game scorer and an elite defensive player. But still, Bean was nowhere near his peak just yet, and as a result, the Lakers had to fight tooth and nail against the Pacers on their way to LA's first championship since 1988, where Shaq put up 41 points and played basically every second of the closeout Game 6, winning Finals MVP.
For the third time in NBA history, the same person has won the MVP of the regular season, the MVP of the All-Star Game, and the MVP of the Finals. This time, Shaquille O'Neal did it by averaging 38 points and 16 rebounds for the Finals. To the unanimous MVP of the 2000 Finals, Shaquille O'Neal.
This championship was massive for him, as it cemented his legacy as an all-time great big man in a way that was more meaningful than flashy dunks and big stats. In Shaq's headcanon, being the best player on a championship team was the ultimate validation, especially in the eyes of a higher class of his peers, which is something that he valued a lot.
Yeah, I didn't want to have that title of, they ain't got one yet. Right. I remember one day reading in the paper, oh, Shaq's averaging 20 or 30 and doing this, and the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said, well, he didn't win none yet. Right. So is he great? And I just kind of, yeah.
To be honest, he probably valued that validation too much, because once he had it, he seemed done giving his all on a consistent basis. The stakes were no longer dire. He was a champion, and no one could take that away from him. So this is where we started to see Shaq's body start changing. He visibly let himself go a bit, and he even seemed to already put on some weight before they won the 2000 title. But while he did get the Finals MVP along with a ring in that 2000 season, while also being the regular season MVP and the runner-up DPOY, the sustainability of Shaq bulking up proved unreliable. Shaq's weight is subject to some weird discourse. I am certainly no fan of discussing the topic as it gets into some body image stuff, and I'm certainly no expert in keeping fat off of my body, but Shaq's weight unfortunately played a huge part in the trajectory of his career. Shaq was dominant around the rim on unprecedented levels basically from day one in the NBA. He has averaged 29 or more points per game 3 times in his career. Only one of those was in LA. The other 2 were in his Magic days, and mind you, those were the first 4 years of his career. People point to his higher playoff scoring numbers in LA, but that was more of a matter of his role, not his ability. He averaged 16.6 field goal attempts per game in Orlando, by contrast to the 20.7 that he averaged in LA up until the end of the three-peat. On top of that, he also declined as a defender, as he slowed down significantly and lost a ton of his verticality, quickness, and second jump speed. This is why I truly believe that Shaq's peak of his ability came in Orlando and in the earlier years of his Lakers tenure, because he was just as good on defense as he was offense. Despite the fact that all 3 of his all-defensive teams came in a Lakers uniform, Orlando's Shaq was still the better version of him defensively. And to me, the lack of defensive teams earlier in his career is merely a reflection of the time, as he had to compete with the likes of Hakeem, Robinson, Mutombo, and Alonzo Mourning for just 2 center spots on those all-defensive teams. Later into his career, the competition at his position grew weaker and weaker, which did play a part in his big playoff numbers, especially in the finals. So many people see the highest level of success for Shaq coming shortly after he put on some extra pounds, and argue that Shaq needed to get heavier to allow himself to truly dominate around the rim to the max, but that's dumb. It's really dumb. Shaq had all of that success in the short term despite the weight, at least in my opinion. The extra weight was not necessary. That's an excuse, and I really think there's no other way to put it. And even if it was intentional, it doesn't appear to have been handled with much intention. Even if this was by design, it's a terrible fucking design because it dramatically shortened Shaq's prime. These weight issues plagued him in his 30s as he became increasingly injury prone. We also know that Shaq's weight gain wasn't some calculated decision because he and Kobe have said as much.
Who would Shaq be if he had your work ethic?
He'd be the greatest of all time.
If Shaq had your work ethic,
he'd be the greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time by a mile.
Sure. He'd be the first to tell you that, for sure. I mean, this guy was a force like I have never seen. I mean, it was crazy. You know, a guy at that size, generally guys at that size are a little timid and they don't want to be tall. They don't want to be big. Man, this dude he did not care. He was mean. He was nasty. He was competitive. He was vindictive. I mean, I wish he was in the gym. I would have had fucking 12 rings.
Shaq's work ethic, or lack thereof, is well documented. I normally do not like to question such a thing about a person who I do not know personally, but the proof is everywhere.
Did I work hard in practice? No, never. And let me tell you why. The guy that I'm playing against, they're under me.
It was a constant through line in his career, as earlier indicated by his unwillingness to improve at the free throw line. And it's also well documented that Kobe had a serious issue with that, and it was the main source of their beef. Given the physical gifts that Shaq had, he had it in his power to be the greatest basketball player who ever lived, and instead he's like 8th. Which means his career is kind of a disappointment. Now, it feels weird to say that about a guy who has 4 rings, an MVP, and 3 finals MVPs, but he should have achieved even more than that. Sure, he got that 3-peat in LA, but his time with a million other teams after that were all ultimately year-over-year decline, with a championship carried by Dwayne Wade sprinkled in. Calling him a part-time basketball player so early on into his career was probably a bridge too far, but it's hard not to feel like Shaq wasted an opportunity to reach the absolute highest level of greatness imaginable. Kobe was in commercials. Kobe made music. He still did the work necessary to maximize his greatness and still always made the main thing the main thing. Many people have said that if Shaq had Kobe's work ethic, he would have been the GOAT. But honestly, he didn't need to be that level of psychotic to get to GOAT status. He didn't need to be Kobe in order to not spend all off-season partying and getting out of shape going into next year. And he didn't need to be Kobe in order to rehab during the summer instead of on company time. I honestly think that sort of idea weighs on him and is one of the deep-rooted causes of his very visible insecurity now that he's on TV. This is all stuff that was more or less known as Shaq's career came to a close, but what we've learned in recent years is the guy was kind of a nightmare teammate to top it all off.
So Shaq used to come in the locker room straight out the shower, just butt-ass naked, and go run and grab one of the trainers and give him in a bear hug and just rolling on the ground with him butt naked. Boom.
Like, I see why you can do those type of pranks because you are,
Because who gonna fight him?
You're not gonna fight you. Like,
there's no way you gonna fight him, man. There's no way. You just stay clear, try to keep on your good side, bro, because his pranks are just, they're not fair, bro. They're not fair.
Pranks.
Abuse. That's abuse.
It's abuse.
It's a felony.
Shaq is a jokester. So if one of the rookies would be in a stall, he would take a bucket and use the bathroom in it for about a week. Okay. And then all of a sudden he'll pour it on them.
No, I was saying like he shit. You said shit surprise. So that means he doesn't just do that. Like he did that multiple times. Like,
yeah, well, I've heard it from like Derek Fisher used to tell me about what he used to do to rookies in L.A. He used to go like take a shit in their shoe and they go put their foot in there and he'd be like, doo-doo surprise. But that's Shaq, man. Doo-doo surprise.
Did he use the toothbrush? Did he end up using the toothbrush?
So the game happened, right? This is crazy. The game happened. I'll come in the locker room. I see Shaq. Shaq walking around the locker room naked is nothing, though. But he's walking like around the locker room like real tight. Like he walking real slow, tight. What the fuck he walking like that? And he pulls a mouthpiece out his ass and he puts it in the locker. And he told us, he said, listen, he said, y'all better not say shit either. Takes a broom, he takes the loose toothbrush. He go take a shit and he stirs it in shit. So we like, man, we ain't in this shit. This is getting out of hand.
What the fuck?
So the game happened, and then somebody's like, hey, Lou, don't use your mouthpiece. Shaq put your mouthpiece in his ass. He said, no, he did, and put it back in his mouth and goes out there.
The company time shit was definitely an indicator of a selfish anti-team mentality, but I'll take that kind of shit over, well, the shit kind of shit. Yeah, I didn't really have a way to bring this up naturally, but these kinds of stories keep coming out about Shaq, and it's actually fucking nuts. This is sick fuck behavior, either because it's some kind of fetish or because he has no regard or care for his teammates who he has deemed to be below him. Seriously, sicko behavior. What the fuck? Actually, sicko isn't pejorative enough. I think Shaq is just a good old-fashioned bully. Bullying as we knew it during the 20th century kind of fell out of fashion. Like, yeah, it's not something eradicated entirely, but it's no longer the sort of cultural phenomenon that ends up being troped to death these days. I feel like now most bullies like to leave mean comments online way more than they like to shake down their classmates for lunch money. But Shaq didn't have any anonymous profiles to channel his bullying through, so he turned out to be an old school asshole. However, none of us knew about a lot of this stuff during his playing days. Those testimonials about Shaq's poo-poo pee-pee antics are from pretty recent podcasts. The results on the court were hard to argue with while O'Neal was in his prime, until one day it wasn't. So now, instead of calling people bums under tweets or on the block, he just says it on TV. He made a Hall of Fame career out of being a bully on the court, so naturally, when his playing days came to an end, Shaq and the institutions around him found new ways to monetize his bullying off the court. When Shaq first joined the TNT crew, it felt like he was the final piece of a perfect puzzle. It's undeniable that the memorable moments between them are nothing short of entertaining.
I'm not making a bet. Oh, it's hot. Anybody got some milk?
Who do they mistake you for?
I went to a restaurant. No, I went to a restaurant.
That was really good. That was really good, man.
You laughing, Anthony? You laughing, Anthony?
And this is obvious.
Get him, Kenny.
Before O'Neal came along, inside the NBA was just Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and Charles Barkley. Ernie was the main presenter, really the point guard of the team that sets everybody else up. The Jet was the level-headed NBA player who could provide insight, and Chuck was the comedic relief.
He said Yao Ming gonna get 19 points. If he get 19 points in the game, I'll kiss his ass right here. Will this be the week I have to kiss Kenny's ass?
And so Sunday night, Yao Ming went 9 for 9 in LA.
That's
He
embarrassing.
scored 20 points, and everybody who heard those words was saying, well, I guess that means Charles is going to have to pay up.
If you're gonna kiss my ass, I went out and bought an ass and kissed my ass right here on national TV. I went out and bought a donkey for the day. You can't leave the table until you pay up.
Well, Charles,
Don't leave the table.
what would you rather do, kiss the donkey or actually
No,
kiss
he's not
Kenny?
kissing me. I bought an ass. He didn't say how, what, and when. I bought an ass.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I'm a man of my word.
You're a man of your word. Yes!
There were plenty of years before Shaq where the show was still popular. Ernie's been a full-time host since season 2 in 1990, with Kenny only joining him in 1998, followed by Barkley in 2000 when the show really took off. Before Chuck, the show was as popular as you'd expect the nationally broadcasted halftime and post-game show to be. But the cultural relevance that Inside is known for today didn't really begin until Chuck came along and injected the show with his humor. They had more all-time great ex-players come and go as the fourth host, but none of them shined as bright as Charles Barkley. So when one of the most popular and biggest personalities in the world became a free agent upon retirement from the NBA in 2011, TNT knew it was a safe investment to make Shaq yet another comedic presence on the screen alongside Barkley. And so the show became at least as much about comedy as it was basketball. Sure, 3 out of the 4 pundits are ex-players, but the 2 most present voices of the 3 are often more concerned about being funny than providing insight into the game. With the addition of Shaq, basketball itself took a back seat to Chuck calling him fat, and then Shaq making fun of Chuck for being ringless.
No matter how much you scream, you loud, that does not make you right. There's nothing. You got to stop babying your players. You got baby, that's why you ain't win. He got the. I didn't have Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant carry me up and down the court. I got 3 Finals MVP, Chuck. Because you Google me, Chuck. Everybody Google me, Chuck. You see that? Google me.
As the 2 Hall of Fame Hoopers became the stars of the show, Shaq and Chuck both seemed to become increasingly disinterested in the NBA as a whole, as it became clear that their roles were more entertainer than analyst. Which means that if you are ever going to these guys for actual insight, actual useful analysis to help you understand the game of basketball better, then you're going to be severely disappointed. Now, being ignorant to the NBA as an NBA analyst is one thing that is worthy of criticism, but what really irks me about Shaq on TNT is how much he belittles players.
They're under me.
When Shaq believes that a player is beneath him, which happens a lot, he makes it pretty clear up front. And given that Shaq is a top 10 player of all time, that kind of means that every player is beneath him other than a very select few individuals. This has become more and more of a problem over the years as it's increasingly bled into his commentary, but the incentive to be a bully at TNT was built into the segment made just for Shaq when he first arrived at Inside, Shaqtin' a Fool.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's that time.
Shaqtin' a Fool. What is it, Kenny?
Fool.
What is it, Kenny?
Shaqtin' a Fool.
With Dennis Scott.
I do love this segment. Shaqtin' a Fool. Get him, big fella.
I don't think it's bad to be on Shaqtin' a Fool. I actually enjoy it, and I thought he went
was a pretty good award.
Segments on Inside the NBA were very simple. For Kenny's segment, he'd break down some highlights. So for Shaq, he would rank the lowlights and naturally make fun of the players that were shacked in a fool.
That was a good move. That was a carry.
I'm going to sleep right now. I'm so sleepy.
No,
This is a segment that is mean-spirited in its very concept, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea. It's more than possible to make a lowlight segment that is tasteful and harmless, but the execution by Shaq was far from that. It was actually very mean-spirited, especially when he would go out of his way to highlight certain players who, again, he believes to be below him. In fact, you're probably thinking of one name in particular.
And number 5, my boy, JaVale McGee.
Possible.
He spins.
Yo,
he falls. He throws a no-look pass.
JaVale,
He spins. He falls. He throws a no-look pass.
But it's not even the meanness that bothers me. It's the dishonest justification. Shaq was just trying to be helpful.
Spider, this is Shaq. I said tonight that you are one of my favorite players, but you don't have what it takes to get to the next level. I said it on purpose. I want you to hear it. What do you have to say about that?
All right. That's it.
That's it?
All right, that's it.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
I wanted you to hear it.
I've been hearing, Shaq, I've been hearing that since my rookie year. You know, I'm just going to get better and do what I do.
Good.
At the end of the
thank
day.
you. Well, that's what I wanted you to hear you say.
Yes,
Love
sir.
your game, brother. Keep it up.
Appreciate it.
Shaq has employed this argument many a time throughout his tenure at TNT. I know I'm being a bully and an asshole, but I'm doing it to make you better. Tough love is absolutely a valid thing that has its place because sometimes you just need to say some real shit to somebody. However, tough love isn't supposed to be the only kind of love you ever give. At the bare minimum, this would be considered a hostile work environment if it weren't for the hyper-masculine tendencies of the culture of most men's sports. Shaq really loves to bully other big men specifically. This seems to be the biggest source of his beefs. Those issues with JaVale McGee ended up going both ways. Being back-to-back Shaqton MVP led to JaVale developing a terrible reputation that cost him real money in the NBA, as he said as much in a recent podcast.
I didn't understand how strong the media was, and I didn't understand that people actually took it serious. That was when it messed me up, and I was like, oh, y'all really think like, out of this game, I did one bad play, but I had 15 and 6 blocks. Like, but y'all didn't show none of that. But I didn't realize that people was like, oh, yeah, he's horrible. Why is he even in the league? Blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, shit, people really think I'm really bad. They don't really think I'm a good player. Like, kids coming up to me, Shaq in the fool. I'm just like, that's funny. And then the NBA started getting behind it, too, to where they started – they made a whole, you know what I'm saying? They made a whole piece about it. And then what was like the really last straw for me is I think I might have blocked a shot, went coast to coast, and somebody like undercut me and I missed the layup. I was like, that was a blooper? Was that a blooper? I don't think that's blooper worthy. You know what I'm saying?
They just kept running.
And it was they just kept running and trying to. They had one episode where it was like 5. It was top 5 of me. And I was like, bro.
It's one of those things, and you think about JaVale's career. I mean, when you're in this position where somebody on national TV is making fun of you night after night, it's not the greatest thing for your reputation. I can tell you, I had a preconceived notion of JaVale before he got here that turned out to be totally false, and a lot of that was because of what goes on with Shaq and a fool.
Okay, I can be that clown you want me to be, but you're going to have to pay me clown money then. You get what I'm saying? And I can play that role. But you're not about to pay me mediocre money and
disrespect me.
Disrespect me and down and push my career down the hill.
You had a great comeback, man. When you got on that damn show.
What?
They said, what do you feel like when you watch Shaq and the Fool? You said, I don't watch Shaq and the Coon.
So what is it that you like about Shaq and the Fool?
I don't watch Shaq and the Coon. I mean Shaq and the Fool.
Shaq and the Coon.
Hey. I said what I said.
Do you think?
Because all these GMs ain't looking at the analytics. They just listening to the analytics guys. They watch TV just like everybody else watch TV. So I'm sure the other 29 GMs were like, oh, yeah, he's doing that. And I bet you 10 of them thought it was for real. You know what I'm saying? So that's any opportunity. That's still messing up my opportunities.
And think about him. I was gonna say, like people would say when they said you didn't want to pick and roll.
That was a lie. That's all I did was pick and roll and dunk the ball.
They said you ain't have post moves.
And I posted up too.
He's also been a long-time Dwight Howard hater.
Superman is in the building. I'm just saying, if all you gotta do is win a dunk contest to be called Superman, don't call me that no more. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, I'm just saying. Hey, we don't call you Superman anymore. But I'm just saying, don't call me that.
I said before, you will get devoured, but don't you ever call me Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard, every time he step in my arena that I built, his dumb ass need to look up. And not only that, when I say something, you should take the tidbits of what I'm saying. I'm giving you answers to the test. Stop being so damn sensitive. We don't want no sensitive big guys in L.A.
In 2009, he called Chris Bosh the RuPaul of big men. So we got a dash of homophobia in there if you were hoping for that. And of course, he's recently taken quite a bit of exception to Rudy Gobert, going as far as to say that he outright hates him like a week ago.
I hate Rudy Gobert.
Why don't you like Rudy?
Because that motherfucker making 250, you don't deserve it, dog. As the president of the Big Man Lions, you making big money, play like a big man.
Right.
That's it. Play like a big man. Throw some bowls, knock some people out. Don't be letting little white dudes from Denver dunk on you and talk to you. Then you got to grab them by the neck at the last second. Come on, bro. That's it. If you're going to get paid big money, play big.
Right. I just want Shaq to still be on TV when Rudy gets into the Hall of Fame because it's going to be.
All right.
We're doing
if Rudy Gobert gets into the Hall of Fame.
Into the Hall of Fame.
If Rudy Gobert gets to the Hall of Fame, I'll wear this dress to the ceremony. Okay?
He might get in there, bro.
He is. He is. He's a 4-time defensive player of the year.
Stop it.
And again, way more homophobic coded shit. Yay! Once again with Dwight, he laid out his tired excuse that he was doing it so he'd get better, and Dwight tried his best to explain that it was not helpful, but it's quite clear that Dwight is not going to get through to him.
Without making free throws, you know how hard that was? Like, it was not 25, not 35. I had to average 40 in the playoffs for us to win. So when I say you're not focused, I want you to say, okay, this is saying I'm not focused, watch this. It's all a play on words. But I think you're right. I probably should have came at you, but that's not what I know. I wanted to get you so mad and so angry to where you hate me, which is fine. But I wanted you to play at that. I just need you to play at that certain high level. So
I understand that. I'm not a angry, mad person.
You are. I seen you when you get mad. Don't tell me you're not angry. When you get mad, you talk and you want to fight. That's the I want on my team. You are.
And okay, me being that person, I feel like it has got me out the league, to be honest with you. When I done played on some teams and being mad, and like later on, that wasn't what they wanted from me. I couldn't be as physical. I couldn't do the things that I was doing in Orlando in some of my days. The things would change. So it was like, what do y'all want me to do? I can't dominate. Y'all don't want me to post up. Y'all don't want me to run, still in the paint. What is it? So I just was kind of confused.
That's true. And I agree that like when you got to LA, it was all different. But Dwight Howard, every time he step in my arena that I built, his dumb ass need to look up. And not only that, when I say something, you should take the tidbits of what I'm saying. I'm giving you answers to the test. Stop being so damn sensitive. We don't want no sensitive big guys in LA. You know, I was on you when you was in Orlando. That's when I was really on you. You know, when you got to LA and y'all did your thing, I was still on you. Like, you gotta understand, they tell you not to post up, that you run to the middle of the paint and you demand the ball.
Correct, but I'm getting penalized for it though. Even what you're saying, they said I'm not trying to run pick and rolls, but I'm like, that's all I did in Orlando was pick and roll, still in the middle of the paint. What am I doing different? Now you're saying I need to post up. So I go to Houston, I'm posting up. I killing the post in Houston. Then they say, well, y'all didn't win, so it wasn't right. Y'all should have did something else. So it's like, damn, I'm damn if I do, damn if I don't.
I signed Dwight Howard. How do you feel about that?
Who?
Dwight Howard. You don't know?
Dwight Howard is the best big man in the game.
Chucky,
Listen, you need to stop that.
You need to let this Superman hatred go.
I ain't got nothing to do with it.
And it was this ongoing Andrew Bynum, Dwight Howard conversation.
Being an old school big man, I'm gonna go with Robin Lopez and Andrew Bynum because they play with their back to the basket.
Brooke Lopez or Robin?
Brooke. Same thing. They twins, they brothers, same thing. First thing Dwight needs to do is change his attitude. Dwight is a power player. You need to get some power moves. You know what? This is his 7th, 8th year, and I'm disappointed that he doesn't have a go-to move to where he can score every time.
What's interesting to me about this is I think Shaq actually believes this. The thing about the best bullshitters is they're so good at bullshitting that they can even bullshit themselves into believing their own bullshit. That's the magic. You become so good at lying that you believe it yourself, and by then it's no longer even a lie. A lot of people believe things about themselves intensely that are just excuses for their shitty behavior. Are they wrong? Yes. Do these people make it everyone else's problem? Also, yes, but that doesn't change the reality that they do believe it. I believe that Shaq believes that he is sincerely being helpful by being rude and belittling to players, especially great big men. I respect you, so I'm going to disrespect you, seems to actually make sense in his head. I'm sure that's what he tells himself to justify it. And even beyond the mere bullying of it all, he might have his own deeply personal reasons to justify tough love. Shaq comes from a military background, and the US military is known for a lot of things. Being empathetic and non-tough love is really not one of them. I don't want to read too much into the man's upbringing, but I would guess this tough love attitude was passed on to him. That tends to be how it goes for these types. He credited his stepdad often for making him the man and player that he turned out to be. And I'm sure that this worked wonders for him at several points, especially earlier in his playing career, so that success would have only reinforced his belief in tough love. It certainly made him millions as a player, but man, are the side effects of that mentality detrimental to his coverage of the game. As it pertains to his targeting of other bigs, he tends to ascribe his mentality mostly to being the self-appointed president of the big man club, and his own experience in the tradition of getting scrutinized by other all-time greats.
Mr. Chamberlain, there goes Shaquille O'Neal. Wilt did me like this. I ain't say nothing. But I'm like, okay, I can't go at him. He is Wilt. Well, average, like is it something I ain't doing wrong? So I called my dad. I said, yo, man, I just saw Wilt. He didn't holler at me. My father said, I wouldn't talk to you either. You ain't win yet, and hung up. That's the type of shit I grew up on.
This wouldn't necessarily be a problem if Shaq looked at other great bigs through this lens, hoping that they could achieve a similar status to him by carving their own path. But no, he wants them to do it exactly how he did, otherwise they're failing. So much of the time, Shaq's criticism for players is that they aren't him.
What about Embiid?
Yeah, Embiid for sure. I think so. Embiid. I think for him, because
Shaq, what was that noise?
Is he mean?
He can be.
Because I came at him one day and his response was, guys don't play like that no more. I'm like, motherfucker, what you talking about? Like, bro, go inside. Yeah. Punish. Oh, guys don't play like that no more. I was like, I'm done even talking to you. It's like trying to bully, be like, give me your lunch. I would, but I'm homeless. Here, go ahead, man. Get the go.
He's criticized Joel Embiid for shooting too many jumpers and not just drop stepping and dunking every possession like him. He criticized Dwight Howard for not scoring a high enough amount of points per game, primarily because he didn't post up enough, knowing full well that for most of his career, while he was scoring 28, he wasn't being the best fucking defender on the planet or anywhere near it at the same time. 28 and 12 with mid defense or 22 and 12 with all-time defense? Which is better? I'm not going to give you a straightforward answer, but I don't think there is one. But no, the issue with Dwight Howard is that he doesn't take more hook shots and put up more eye-popping stat lines. He used this same talking point more recently when discussing Zion Williamson.
Lower your voice when you talk about that. That's good, but that's not good enough.
So you want me to be like, another triple-double?
No.
It was a pretty good game.
Because you know what? In one sentence, you said the up and down Pelicans. I can't have that with my franchise play.
Well,
now,
you just started playing again.
If they're in third, fourth place, and you got those numbers, I'm impressed. But I'm not impressed with that. You need to do more, Zion. I love you.
Yeah, in this game, Zion was getting double-teamed the moment he touched the ball. Hence the 12 assists, which apparently mean nothing to Shaq. He also played 32 minutes, which recontextualizes that amount of points a little bit. Not that he watched the game to know any of this context. He dismissed it on the grounds of New Orleans losing games, even though they were comedically riddled with injuries at this point in the year. Shaq is one of the best NBA players who has ever played the game. But when it comes to his commentary, the best he can do is not watch the games that he's talking about, look at the stat sheet, and provide the grand wisdom and insight that he gained from his storied career by saying, he could have scored 28. Give me a fucking break. Brilliant, insightful stuff. This shit is incredibly lazy. And that is not a word that I use lightly because I think lazy is just the easy explanation for people who are being uncharitable 9 times out of 10. Shout out to all my ADHD heads or super depressed people diagnosed in their 20s. I'm sure you have complex feelings about the concept of laziness. But to be frank, the way that Shaq approaches his commentary is blatantly, flagrantly lazy. Shaq is here to collect a paycheck, head to the studio, hang out with some buddies on camera for a couple of minutes at a time for a few hours, all while making over $1 million a month. Talk about a cushy gig, my God. I can't imagine having such a privileged job and treating it like shit like this. I especially can't imagine getting away with it. I even more so can't imagine being offended for being called out for it. Like imagine if I, Jacob R.R. Buckets, on the drop of a dime, decided to not just watch any games and say the most insane reactionary bullshit, all while being smug about how much I don't care about basketball, and then you called me out for it, and then I got upset at you? Well, that's what Inside has been doing.
Hey, JJ Redick said something about me. Folks on
What did
TV. He said something about we're the reason people ain't watching this crappy product we got. I said, JJ. Yeah, us, like we out there jacking up 100 threes a night. JJ, but I can get you, brother, because I got your Lakers games. You can't hide them flaws they got. You just a dead man walking. They got rid of Frank Vogel, who did a good job. They got rid of Darvin Ham, who did a good job. But you came out there thinking you were going to change things with that same ugly girl you went on the date with.
64-51 was your halftime score. As we get back to the highlights, Rudy Gobert.
Now, this was mostly Barkley leading the charge here, no doubt, but I just want to focus on this for a second. This behavior is extremely childish. I have to ask, for those among you who are a fan of a different sport, do you typically see the people on TV feuding with a key figure in the league that they cover over their own commentary being lazy dog shit? This is a really unique level of baby behavior. Straight up on some goo goo gaga shit. I think how you respond to being called out is a pretty clear insight into who you really are as a person. And Shaq and Chuck made it quite clear that the people that they were some whiny ass babies. This honestly wouldn't bother me so much if this wasn't the most forward-facing show in the NBA world. Shaq's ego is so big that he seems like he wears his privilege of being an NBA analyst who doesn't care about the NBA like it's some kind of badge of honor.
You said Chauncey?
Chauncey's the coach, right?
Okay.
Portland.
No.
Chauncey, he coaches.
Can't let this go.
JB Bickerstaff. Yeah, Bickerstaff. That's what I mean. Hey, you know, first of all, I don't watch Detroit. How about that, boo-boo? I don't watch them. So,
let that go.
I messed up. I made a mistake.
When I hear people say, oh, the NBA is boring, I go, you're watching the same teams. Because if you put on the Detroit Pistons right now.
Oh, stop it. They're boring, too. You know.
No.
Bro, 4 games under 500.
They've won 7 in a row.
Whoopie freaking do.
And I don't think they're 4 games under 500.
All right, what are they?
I'm going to look it up right now. 6 games over 500. They've won 7 in a row.
You want to brag about a team that's 32 and 26?
Oh, you see how he moved the goalposts?
Yeah, stop it.
By the way, he gets paid $15 million a year for this level of insight. Why would you defend him at that point? Truly, I don't understand it. Saying the game sucks without even watching has become Shaq's signature move now far more than the drop step dunk ever was. In my humble opinion, the presence of the TNT crew since Shaq's arrival has been a net negative on the NBA culture, especially in recent years. It's just plain insulting to those of us who actually care about the game, more so than hearing the same middle school playground level insults over and over and over and over and over. But among all of my issues with the Inside the NBA crew, overwhelmingly, my biggest problem is with Shaq. I'm too young to remember Inside the NBA without Shaq, and the social media factor of its place in the industry wasn't something to consider for most of the show's existence. So I don't really know if the halftime and post-game show was definitely less toxic with Chuck alone as the comedic relief versus when Shaq came in. But regardless of that, when you have your top communicators of the game saying that the game sucks, then the casual fan who watches that has good reason to be like, oh, this sucks? Maybe I'll watch Severance instead. Or maybe I'll go to TikTok to the slop mines and get some good slop. You can see why this is a reason for me personally to be a hater. Here I am watching every NBA team, at least in some capacity, trying to provide the most educated analysis one guy can, but why do I even bother? I'm basically a professional NBA fan. I kind of sort of dedicated my life to covering the NBA so far, and I love basketball, so it's been an honor and a privilege to have people like you watching these videos. But I have gotten madder and madder at this show over the years because I have met so many brilliant people who know the game far better than I do, who are regularly hanging on by a thread to keep talking and writing professionally about this game that they love. It's insulting to see the biggest voices in the game spew contempt and disinterest when there is an avalanche of other people who will happily, intensely say good things about the game. And, you know, watch it! But Inside the NBA's reign of terror on halftime has officially come to an end, as TNT recently lost the rights to NBA broadcasts. So now, Shaq's platform for bullying has adapted to the times and moved to podcasting, where he has way more airtime to stroke his ego and flaunt that hate-fueled insecurity. The idea of an insecure egomaniac might seem like an oxymoron, but it's not. Ego and insecurity are just two sides of the same shitty coin, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. To me, the most egotistical people that you'll encounter will let you know who they are, but the moment that they're pressed on anything about them, they act like they're hurt, whether they know it or not. The bigger the ego, the more fragile it becomes, the more susceptible to spiraling and behaving like a child you become. Shaq's greatest accomplishments might make it seem implausible for him to be insecure, but the thing is, there's always more. There is always regret. I don't know if you've ever met one of these motherfuckers who says they have no regrets in their life, but they're lying, just for the record. When Shaq talks about his relationship with Kobe spiraling, well, first of all, he says a bunch of contradictory shit about whether or not they even beefed to begin with, which that's a pretty typical behavior from Shaq anyways. But second of all, you can tell that he deeply regrets that dynamic duo ending how it did. We made a whole deep dive on his assessment that he and Kobe would have won 8 or 9 championships if they stayed together. What I said earlier about Shaq having GOAT potential and falling short, I think he knows that. He's clearly put a lot of thought into what he didn't achieve in his career. I think the joke that Shaq brings up his rings whenever he can isn't really much of a joke at all. It's more so his defense mechanism to deflect things said at his expense. Everyone might be laughing when Shaq flexes his 4 rings, but you'll notice quite often he isn't. Also, just as a sidebar, I find it funny that Shaq criticizes and dismisses the rings of other players for being bus riders, while also happily flexing his 4th ring that he won in 2006, averaging 13 points per game in the finals and being outscored by Antoine Walker. It's a hater manifesto. I'm gonna round down, whatever. Seems a bit hypocritical to me. Kinda seems like a bus rider ring, if you're asking me. Shaq's insecurity also tends to come rearing its ugly head when the subject of MVPs come up, specifically Steve Nash's MVP awards in 2005 and 2006. You see, in 2005, Shaq ended up finishing 2nd place to Steve Nash in MVP voting. This was an extremely close race. Nash only secured 34 more points in the vote tally, which is one of the more narrow ones that I've ever seen. I personally believe that neither Nash nor Shaq should have won this award. I would have personally given it to Dirk, who had better counting stats than both, though that is a matter of opinion. And he also only won 4 less games than Nash's Suns, and Shaq's Heat only got 1 more win in the East, while Dirk didn't have an all-star teammate, unlike both of them. Hell, Shaq had a teammate in Dwayne Wade who was fucking 8th in MVP voting that same year. But I completely understand Shaq getting a bit hung up on this particular award, given how close it was. However, for some reason, Shaq seems to think he got robbed by Nash not once, but twice.
Was he true MVP or was he a sympathy MVP?
No, he was a true MVP.
Over me? Twice?
Oh, get out of here.
If you're at your house, can you show me one of those MVP trophies that you stole from me?
Not a part of you that says, yes, Steve Nash deserved the award for the following reasons.
Maybe once, but not twice over the diesel. Twice, 2 times in a row. He got 2, I got 1, Kobe got 1. Something wrong with that picture.
I'd just like to state for the record that in the 2006 MVP race, Shaquille O'Neal didn't even place in MVP voting. His teammate Dwayne Wade finished 6th, but Shaq wasn't in the top 10. I'm pretty sure he didn't receive a vote at all. He averaged 20 and 9, his lowest numbers ever to that point, and he only made the All-NBA first team because of the relative lack of great centers at this time. He placed over Ben Wallace and a 3rd-year Yao Ming, both really good players at the time, but in no way did it mean that Shaq was a top 5 player just because he made the All-NBA first team. So no, Steve Nash did not rob Shaq twice. He robbed Dirk twice. I think Dirk has an infinitely better argument for Nash having stolen his 2 MVPs than Shaq does. But that's besides the point. The main thing I'm getting at here is that with someone like Shaq, it's never enough. There is always more. He had 3 finals MVPs, a regular season MVP, and 4 championships. But he knows what we know, which is that he could have achieved so much more. He probably has the absolute best idea about just how much more he could have achieved. He definitely gets quite hyperbolic with what he thinks could have happened. Others are not as bothered by this type of thing. They can still feel it and not let it rule their perspective and outward behavior, but that is not the case for Shaq. Shaq's bullying tendencies, his dismissal of bigs he feels are below him, his flagrant disrespect and vitriolic poison hurled towards certain teams and players, it is all a projection of his insecurities. The reason he hates on Gobert isn't because of anything that Rudy has ever said or ever did to him, or because he has weirdo politics, because Shaq also has weirdo politics. No, it's because he makes way more money than Shaq ever did while being a much worse player than Shaq was. And that sin cannot be forgiven. He hates on Ben Simmons for the exact same reasons. Money, honestly, is the root of much of his bitterness, because, of course, the hundreds of millions of dollars that he has made isn't enough. Shaq's hater energy has always been a projection of his own insecurities, and unfortunately, that is actually deeply relatable to me. While I do stand in awe of the level of hater that Shaq is capable of being, I definitely still think he's got me outranked in that regard. I'm still making a video with Hater Manifesto in the name, just as I did with Kevin Durant, and just as I'm going to do with others in the future. I am no doubt a hater. I also no doubt have a larger than average ego. I'm literally a fucking YouTuber. I also have some deeply rooted insecurity. When I get comments that say I'm being smug, it's usually because my ego flared up a bit and showed itself too much in my commentary. Behind the scenes, I'm riddled with self-doubt just as much, if not more, than the next guy, followed by bursts of way too much pride and some kind of wave of cope. I have dislike towards Shaq because I often see the worst parts of myself in his worst behaviors. I almost always get secondhand embarrassment from the stuff he does or says because it's not too far removed from my behaviors in some of my worst moments. I recognize many of the worst instincts that he has. I have them too. Now, I've never poured shit and piss out of a bucket onto anyone. That is not the origin of my name, I swear. But I can relate to Shaq. I don't want to, but I do. I know all too well about ego and insecurity being two sides of the same coin because I've been there 1,000 times, whether it's heads or tails. I'd like to think that I have a much stronger hold on it than I used to, but it's unfortunately always going to be something that I wrestle with. I also don't think that Shaq is just his worst moments. I don't want to be perceived that way, so I don't think it's super fair to do the same with Shaq. But his worst moments on his massive platform have real consequences for the game that I love. Again, Inside the NBA is the biggest NBA show that there has ever been. And those seats are filled by two guys who flagrantly do not give a fuck. And at least one of them is very happy to tell you about how much he doesn't give a fuck. So, do I hate Shaq? No, I don't know that man. I also love who he was as a basketball player. But I certainly do hate the place that he has carved out for himself following his NBA career. He rarely has anything insightful to say, and after over a decade of hearing the same jokes over and over, he's really not even making us laugh anymore. At least, not me.
If it weren't for Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant, we'd never even heard of you.
And thank you to Shaq for making this video easy to make by having so many damning clips available of you on the internet. Seriously, what was the shit bucket thing? Why was Gary Payton acting like that was a funny practical joke? I'll throw a bucket of shit on me and I'll kill. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate people who watch this stuff. This script I felt very good about. As you may or may not have noticed, we didn't really go as hard with the editing in the process this time around because I want to just get more of our thoughts out there to you guys by, I think the actual meat of the videos, the stuff that actually matters is, you know, the words that we're saying. So we focused on making sure that all of that was great and the edit otherwise just being good enough to make it a professional ass video. And I feel really happy with the result that we got. I feel happy with this video. Let me know what you guys thought of it. And if you would like to participate in the conversation around these videos more closely, then Patreon would be a great way to do that. Again, I appreciate you making it to this point. That amount of support is already amazing. But if you believe in what we are doing over here on this channel, and you would also like to join a community of like-minded NBA fans, like-minded not in the sense of you all have the same hive mind opinions, but, you know, bunch of people who aren't assholes about talking about a game about an orange ball, that is available on our Discord, which you can get access to through our Patreon and get access to some content early and all of that. Yeah, I'm recording this super late. I have a flight to catch. I hope this video does well. I will be depressed if it does not. But yeah, thank you so much and goodbye.